I have seen your work episode on Shark Tank.
That today HiveSchool has become a household brand.
What is the legacy HiveSchool is quietly pitching to every student who walks through its door?
Interesting, I just need 15-20 seconds to think about it.
Sure, when we do any business, there are days which are highs and lows, and
That was one of the low moments, but there was a problem we figured out back in college. And this was not a problem just in my college. We did this for good 1.5 years, but that's when COVID hit, and that's exactly when we had to shut down the entire venture.
welcome to the Founders Times. I'm your host Suhani Khanna, and today we have joined by a remarkable founder, Nikhil Gaur, who is the founder of HiveSchool, a business school that was also featured on Shark Tank. Without any further delay, let's dive into this very motivational and inspiring podcast. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you for having me here, Suhani. I think it's a pleasure being on the podcast for sure.
And I have seen your work. I have seen that episode on Shark Tank. It's amazing. I love the work, and I have read a lot about HiveSchool. So starting with that, I would like to know more about the founder itself, Nikhil Gaur. Take us back to when you started your first venture, TeenEdge, but you eventually shut it down. Right?
Yeah.
So tell us what was going in your head at that time.
Super. Firstly, thank you so much for the warm intro. This is the founder, Nikhil. I think I am still not eligible for that, but I'll still give you some background context of exactly who I am, how did we start HiveSchool, exactly what was the background story all about. So the entire story started back in my college.
Yeah.
So I did my BBA from a college based out of IP University in Delhi itself. Now there was a problem in our college, which was the problem for placements, which is like 90% of the batch that used to do their BBA didn't used to get placed. And even the students who were getting placed, they were getting placed at an average CTC of around 3 or 4 LPA at max. There was a problem we figured out back in college. And this was not a problem just in my college. This was a problem across all the BBA and BCom colleges across Delhi and pan-India. So there was a deep problem. So we thought, okay, let's try to solve it. For which we tried to create a community. जितने भी BBA and BCom colleges हैं, let's try to go and do some workshops there. Let's try to create a community out there, and let's maybe try to train this entire talent into employable and deployable talent in the industry. So that was the first principles thought of exactly why we even thought of building an education. So we did this. We started doing workshops across different colleges in Delhi NCR. It started working out well. Students liked the entire content that we used to deliver in the workshops. From there, we formalized this entire community and we gave it a name, which was TeenEdge India. So TeenEdge was never, so my first venture, it was never a startup idea. It was something very random. We were only trying to go to colleges, do workshops, help students find jobs. That was the first principle, thought and idea. From there, we thought, okay, now the community is growing to 50, then 70, then 100, then 150, then 200. Eventually became a community of around 1,500 students.
Wow.
Just across Delhi NCR colleges. And we thought, okay, now let's maybe try to formalize it and let's give it a name. Through which we gave it a name, which was TeenEdge India. Which is how can we give edge to all the teenagers. Very vague, very lame, but like that was the initial first principles idea there. We did this for good 1.5 years, but that's when COVID hit. And that's exactly when we had to shut down the entire venture. We tried to go online, we tried to pivot into multiple models. Nothing really worked out well for us. We thought, okay, now I think it's the right time for us to shut it down. And then I, once again, shut that down, joined the next organization into EdTech, worked, and then started HiveSchool again. But yeah, that was the background story of exactly what we built at TeenEdge, why we had to shut it down. And from there, after I shut down my last venture, which was TeenEdge India, I got this thought, okay, now next, if in case I build something, I will only build an education. And if I build an education, I will build a college.
Wow.
That was also my phone's wallpaper, by the way. And I will build a college. And that was there for 2.5 years until I started HiveSchool. So that was the idea of exactly how we started TeenEdge India. And then from there, the thought of building a B school or a college came in. And from there, once again, we started building HiveSchool for sure. So yeah.
So most people usually give up when their first venture fails and they think, no, let's just stick with job. But you thought that this was a blueprint to something bigger, that is a college itself.
Yeah.
So do you think that building a community there, starting off when you were very young, mostly a teenager yourself, so do you think that actually gave you some lessons that you were able to incorporate in this venture?
I think 100%. Like I think the first thing that it enabled me was to find a job very easy.
Oh, perfect.
And I think when people ask me the importance of entrepreneurship in the Indian education curriculum, just give them a very simple example. Let's say if in case you're building a D2C brand as a founder yourself and you're running a D2C brand which is doing 100 crore in terms of revenue across an entire year. Now you want to hire your founder's office or you want to hire a right hand who can actually come in and solve the entire operations, the entire marketing, the entire supply chain, sales for yourself. In that case, whom will you hire? You will hire an MBA who knows finance, who's learned finance, marketing, HR into classes, or will you hire someone who's built a D2C brand himself, failed at it, and now wants to maybe get into a D2C brand as a founder's office, maybe into any role for that matter. It's obviously going to be the latter one.
Yeah.
Like for most founders, it's going to be the latter one. Like someone who's got that founder experience, who's done that real time, who's done that firsthand, who's failed at it, and now maybe wants to work in the industry and wants to maybe elevate some other founder or some other startup journey for sure. So that was the entire intent overall, and I think that is something which also helped me. So I had built something in education. I failed at it. Didn't really do good at it. But I understood exactly how this entire education industry works. So मेरे को A to Z पता था, पूरी playbook पता थी education की.
Because you learned it firsthand.
Yeah, because I was building something of my own. So I had to have that experience. I had to have that entire acumen and knowledge. Once again, it might not be that great overall as compared to other founders in the industry. It was still substantial enough.
Yeah.
So from there, for any founder to hire me, at least for someone who was building in education, it was very easy. So after I had shut TeenEdge India, I just got a LinkedIn post out that, hey, I'm looking for a founder's office role into an edtech startup. So anyone who's looking to hire, please feel free to contact. And I told them that, okay, we've shut TeenEdge India officially. From there, a few founders reached out, and I ultimately ended up joining a founder's office role into a K-12 startup that had raised $12 million back then, which was almost 96 crores back then is what they had raised, and they wanted someone to come in and build a community in India, then in the Middle East, then in the US, across globally. So I joined that first organization. So I think my last startup where I failed, it enabled me to get my first job. And that first job and the second job then gave me the exposure to understand exactly how some other founder is building a startup. From there, I got some experience of exactly maybe how, let's say, I can go about building my own startup. And if I build it, exactly what has to be the way to build it. So that is what entrepreneurship or maybe failed entrepreneurship enabled me to do.
That's actually very motivating because people actually sit at home and they get very depressed because every startup requires some sort of investment, be it financially, let it be financially, but I'd say your emotional investment also goes in there. And once it fails, everybody feels like, I failed at it, I should not give it another try. And that's what I think the society also says, that a stable job is much better than you go around experimenting, because everybody wants stability. But I just feel that you experimenting with it again and coming out even stronger is some sort of a journey that every founder must, applause at. Taking this forward, in March 2023, you quit your job. You quit your job and joined an MBA. But somewhere inside, you already were building a revolution. Was that your burn the boats moment?
I think when I joined my MBA, the plan was to obviously build something. And I never really had a plan to do an MBA. So I never really applied to CAT. I never sat for an IIM interview.
Okay.
So I wanted to get into a college that can enable me to build something of my own during my tenure. And from there, I figured out this B school, a new age B school that was coming up, that was being set up back then, which was Masters Union School of Business, wherein we could actually build something while we were studying. So I found the concept very interesting. I thought, okay, let's maybe join Masters Union and let's do our MBA from there, and then maybe we can think of building something of our own. So from there, I joined the B school purely because I wanted to build something of my own. I didn't have an idea. All I had was just two things. Number one, I want to build an education and I will build a college. So these were only two thoughts that were initially there.
And they were strong, upheld since the very beginning of your college.
Yeah, they were strong. I always, the intent to even get into a job was simple, that I wanted to build something of my own and I wanted to understand exactly how do good, efficient founders who've been able to build businesses work. So I only wanted to shadow the founders, learn from them exactly what is their working pattern like, how do they think, how can they solve a problem, how do they approach at a problem. That is what I learned in the founder's office role. And now when I thought, okay, now I think I have enough learning here, and now I think I'm ready enough to be able to build something of my own into education. That's when I quit my last job, dropped in my papers in March 2023, and I thought, okay, now let's maybe start something of our own. And I wanted to create an entire ecosystem wherein maybe 100 other people who are studying with me are also building, and hence I chose an MBA.
Do you think you bought yourself some time doing an MBA and you learned during that time, okay, let me do this course, let me do MBA, whilst I'll be learning and taking all the knowledge that is required? Because some people do take, they act on their impulsive thoughts that, okay, it failed, no problem, I'll just start again, instead of even trying to learn. So you think you bought yourself some time doing that MBA, right?
So I think whatever we learn in an MBA, like 90% of it is not applicable in a startup. Is what I feel like. It might refine you fundamentally. It might refine you exactly how do you approach a problem, how do you solve a problem. But it's definitely not applicable in a startup. 90% of the stuff that you learn in an MBA. That was true for me also. That whatever I had learned in my MBA, most of it was not something I was applying into my startup. Whatever I was applying into my startup is what I was learning firsthand only after I was doing my startup. I think what an MBA enables you to do is that it gets you into a good MBA, gets you into a strong community of very good people who think like you, or maybe even better than you, and who are going to land up into extremely good positions in the startup or the corporate ecosystem. For example, I think we were talking before the podcast also. If you reach out to anyone, there's a 5 people rule. That let's say even if you have to reach out to Shah Rukh Khan, you just need those 5 people as the pillars between you and Shah Rukh Khan. And if you're able to find out those 5 people, and then through contacting one, like he refers you to someone else, the other person refers you to someone else, like you can also reach out to Shah Rukh Khan. It's very similar in the MBA ecosystem also. Let's say if in case I want to reach out to a big founder of a big company, I can firstly get into my MBA community ecosystem, and I can see, okay, who's working in this company, maybe who's working in the competitor company. I can maybe reach out to him. From there, I can reach out to someone in the competition. From there, I can reach out to the founder. So I think MBA enabled me to get into a very strong community of people. Now today, if in case I have to even raise money, I have friends who are sitting into venture capital firms. If I have to maybe get my students placed into tech or AI companies, I have friends who are heading sales or businesses for those tech and AI companies. This is what MBA enabled me to do personally. It got me into a very strong community, nothing else.
So talking about MBA, what is one thing that you had to unlearn that you learned at MBA while starting HiveSchool?
I think an MBA teaches you, I think an MBA humbles you down. A good MBA humbles you down because you find so smart people around you. There are people who are smarter than you. There are people who are more experienced than you. There are people who solve problems substantially better than you. So I think one thing I had to unlearn was my ego. With that, okay, maybe I know things. I know everything. Even if I knew things, there were so many things which were unexplored, which I didn't know, which I had to learn from the people around me. So I think my MBA personally enabled me to drop down that ego, bring in the humility that, okay, there are still a lot of things which are still unexplored, which are yet to be learned. And then it created an entire learning trajectory for me personally. So yeah.
But it also takes somebody's, understanding of being that I need to learn. Because there are people out there who say, I know everything. Even if they can do it better, I can still do it. Right? So it also takes an understanding that I need to learn. So that's amazing. Talking about this, take us to one of the, I would say, the biggest hit of HiveSchool, that's the Shark Tank.
Oh yeah.
So Shark Tank gave HiveSchool a national attention for a few minutes. But apart from that attention, what do you think was the real impact in the moment for you as a founder?
Right. So I'll give you a backstory also here about Shark Tank.
Great, loving that.
So HiveSchool started in March 2024 is when we started off HiveSchool. June 2024 is when we got the first cohort for HiveSchool. It was literally June, July, August, September. October is when we went to the tank.
Wow.
It was literally the 5th month of the business. So I applied to Shark Tank in the very first month of my cohort.
Okay.
But actually, even before my cohort was coming in. So I applied to Shark Tank when I had 10 admissions in my first cohort. So 5th month of the business, you were pitching in Shark Tank India, which was October. So it was immensely big for us overall, but I was also extremely scared because there were so many things which were supposed to be set up in the business. And once again, you get on national TV once in a lifetime. And that too Shark Tank, like the biggest platform for the startup ecosystem. So I didn't really want it to go south. That was the entire intent. So I think October is when we pitched, and after we came back from Bombay here to Delhi, we were just nervous. So we were fingers crossed if our episode will get aired or not. So November, December, Jan, Feb, we only went on to thinking that, okay, is our episode getting aired, yes or no? And we started planning for the next step, which is after we came back from Shark Tank, we were absolutely clear on this one thing, that okay, now from being an online school, we want to start an offline college, which was the first idea also, we will build a college. So then we started, once again, we did a collab with this campus. We said, okay, maybe we want to host an entire campus outdoor. We started creating the offline curriculum. We started creating the pedagogy for the offline program. So we started working on the offline PGP that we had to launch. So we logged all the things with the assumption that we might get aired on Shark Tank. There's going to be good traction that will come on the brand. And our marketing at least will be solved. So people will maybe get to know exactly what HiveSchool is. So that happened. And March, I think a week prior, not even a week prior, actually 3 days prior to our episode getting aired, we got a call from Shark Tank team. That, hey, your episode is scheduled to get aired 3 days later. 3 days later, what are you saying? Like, there's so many things to be done here. So those 3 days, which is 72 hours, the team was in office. So 48 hours, me and my co-founders, my founding team, we were all in office, sitting here, solving all the breakages, making sure that once the episode goes on air, once we get traction on the website, nothing needs to break. So it was literally 3 days for us to prepare the entire thing. And once it got aired on national TV, at least on Sonile for that matter, there was, I think we hit an all-time high. There was 15x more traction on the brand. We hit the highest month in terms of revenue. The overall brand awareness elevated. We were almost 5x in terms of the number of people who knew the brand. I actually said this after the screening happened on the Shark Tank day, that today HiveSchool has become a household brand.
Wow.
And I think that is what happened after the entire screening happened for Shark Tank. After we got aired on Shark Tank, it became a household brand. Parents knew us, students knew us, everyone knew us that, okay, there is HiveSchool that exists. They're trying to build an India's first sales B school. They've been on Shark Tank India, and now maybe they've also built an entire offline program. So I think the impact was huge. The impact was great. Something that we are still riding on till today. It built a lot of credibility for the brand. Because in education, credibility is something which is a huge problem for all the new colleges that are being set up. So I think that was substantially solved for us through Shark Tank India. And I think it also enabled us to get into a very strong network ecosystem. So like today I have an entire WhatsApp group wherein there are all the Shark Tank founders that have been on Shark Tank, pitched on Shark Tank, gotten aired, and now are basically in that community of group. So I had the network to all the Shark Tank founders. Apart from that, there were so many founders, so many HR leaders, business leaders, sales leaders, marketing leaders that now wanted to work with us.
Wow.
So I think it was multi-dimensional, the impact that Shark Tank gave. And I think we're just very, very grateful for it, that we got a chance to pitch on the platform. And we're still enjoying we're still riding on the success that came after Shark Tank here to the brand. So yeah.
Even when I saw the episode of Shark Tank, because I didn't know what HiveSchool was, and it actually created so much impact. First, your pitch there was amazing, I must say, and the impact that it had, because people actually are searching for better options out there apart from MBAs and the renowned colleges out there, because not everybody gets seats there, or they don't get the chance to even try there because of their age limit or whatsoever. Somewhat, I have seen that Indian education system is broken. That we also witnessed in one of your
pitches.
So, how would you describe, and how do you think that the government can somewhat help other B schools or itself enhancing the Indian education system? Okay, so
I think let's first try to understand exactly why is the Indian education system broken. Even if we just look at MBA colleges right now, there are more than 5,000 MBA colleges in India today. All these MBA colleges are currently operating at maximum capacity, which is, let's say in case they have 300 seats in a college, all the seats are full. So 500 MBA colleges with maximum seats being full currently operating in India. How many B schools in India do you think are actually able to offer placements? Just take a rough guess. A percentage, maybe out of all the colleges in India right now that are offering an MBA, what percentage of colleges might be able to get their students placed?
I'd say 60%.
60%. That's almost 2,700. That's almost 2,700
Oh my
that you're
God.
saying that are being able to get their students placed. The actual number is just 60 B schools. So which is not even 10%. It's actually 1.5%. So out of 5,000 B schools currently in India, only 60 B schools in India are able to produce outcomes. Every single year, there are 2.5 lakh people that are giving CAT.
Yeah.
And if we just look at all those top 60 B schools, there are not more than 10,000 seats. Every single year, more than 2 lakh people are graduating out of an MBA. 7.5 lakh people currently are doing an MBA. So from this entire ecosystem, there's so much.
And that is from a good MBA college that you're talking about.
A good MBA college will be able to yield you outcomes. But there are only 60 good MBA colleges currently in India which are able to get outcomes out of their students. This was the fundamental problem with higher education, at least, which is India needed a lot more good B schools to come in, to set up, to create curriculums and pedagogy that is actually helpful to get a student placed into the industry. There's also a reason to it, which is tech and business as an industry is getting evolved or changing every 6 months. But it takes almost on an average 5 years for the Indian education curriculum to be able to revamp. So let's say 6 months is when industry is evolving, but you're changing your curriculum every 5 years. So if you compound the entire effect of it, like you'll see that we are so much lag behind in reference to exactly what is being taught in the industry versus exactly what is being taught in the B schools. That was the reason for which we saw that, okay, I think we can create a B school or an ecosystem wherein we can create our own curriculum. We can upgrade the curriculum as per how the industry is getting upgraded, and then we can once again get the students to good outcomes coming in from absolutely strong training. So I think the problem with this Indian education system being broken, the only way to solve it is by launching a lot more Hive schools, or maybe launching a lot more new age B schools which can come in, which can create curriculums which are actually deployable in the industry, which are not regulated. A problem with all these current B schools is that they're highly regulated. So there's this AICTE approvals that come in. Now, once you have AICTE approvals, you need to teach a few segments in the curriculum that you cannot really miss out on. And those few segments are not needed in the industry. Okay. In our case, it's not really true because we are not regulated. We are independent, so we can teach whatever we want to teach. So the hypothesis for our research is not really going to come in from a few SOPs that the government has set. It's actually going to be coming in from the industry people who are already working in the industry, by talking to them exactly what do you need in the talent, how can we bridge that gap in the talent for you, what can be our training pedagogy, what can be our learning pedagogy that can actually train the talent to be employable in this industry. So I think the way to bridge this gap is by creating a lot more such B schools who can come in, bridge the real gap between exactly what's needed in the industry versus what's being taught in all the B schools right now. So, yeah.
Wow. So one thing that HiveSchool is catering, that the gap that you have mentioned that is there out there. Do you think that people who are, or the students who are learning at HiveSchool, they could one day become the founder of another B school one day? Do you want to see that happening?
I think why just a B school? Like I genuinely want the students to become maybe founders of different startups, be it a tech startup, be it a D2C brand, be it an AI startup, be it an education startup, be it a fintech startup. Or if let's say they're not really becoming founders, I would want them to maybe directly work with the founder to lead an entire business vertical. That is what we're trying to create, and that's what we're trying to teach in the curriculums. I think the bigger caveat here for us to solve is to be able to create business leaders, which we call as revenue leaders of tomorrow. Wow. So our tagline is also that, hey, HiveSchool, building India's first sales B school, and we are trying to create India's revenue leaders for tomorrow. So that's the entire intent. Like, can our students tomorrow, maybe 3 or 4 years or 5 years down the line, directly work with the founder or directly work with the leadership team and drive businesses and revenue for that company, maybe all alone heading the entire vertical? That's the kind of that's the North Star metric that we are trying to achieve here. And I think entrepreneurship just enables you to be able to achieve it even better. So even if a few people are being able to become founders, I would love the other people to become business leaders, marketing leaders, sales leaders, revenue leaders for tomorrow. So yeah, that's the entire.
And you're actually providing for that as well. It's not just that you see the potential of the student, you're trying to incorporate that potential as well.
Yeah, right? That's how the entire pedagogy is laid down. Yeah. That how can we pick up good talent which is trainable enough, but has not really got a 95, 99 percentile in CAT, but is still good as a talent. How can we get that talent? How can we grill them? How can we train them for a duration of maybe 12 months being on the campus? And then how can we deploy them to the industry? That's the entire intent. And how can we handpick the talent? Which is, we cannot really initially, when we're doing it for the initial 2 or 3 years, we don't want to do it for thousands of people. We only want to do it for maybe, let's say 50 people or 100 people in a year that we handpick. We work with them for the entire year. The entire team is dedicatedly working with those 50, 60, or let's say 100 people at max across a year. And once we feel that, okay, now these people are ready to be deployed, that's when we get them set for placements. That's when we make them set for maybe building something of their own. So it has to be absolutely
HiveSchool trying to ensure that the industry leaders that you are letting out of HiveSchool are actually prepared for the journey.
Correct. You handpick less people, you work with them, you train them, and then you deploy them. That's the
initial goal.
Initially,
yes. Of course, it will grow 10%.
Once again, 100%.
Taking this forward, do you believe we build things to change the world or to understand ourselves better? While building HiveSchool, what part of Nikhil Gaur did you come to understand for the very first time?
I think it's a mix of both. Definitely, when you're building a startup, you're trying to create an impact for sure. For example, when I say that maybe I'm building HiveSchool, I'm trying to bring an impact in education. So I think that's a very huge responsibility, number one. And number two, as a founder, when you're building something of your own, there are very regular changes that you have to inculcate into yourself and into your personality. For example, initially when I started, I was very impatient. I was extremely impatient, which is that, okay, if I have to do something today, this has to be done today. Today I need to empathize. I need to wait. I have to be patient. I need to understand exactly what the other person's standpoint is. So I think entrepreneurship evolves you as a person, 100%. It makes you a better person in terms of better empathy. It makes you more patient. It makes you a lot more resilient. And I think it helps you to manage a lot of chaos better in your life, because there's so much happening when you're building something. There's an entire roller coaster of emotional chaos that's happening across multiple days. So entrepreneurship, to me personally, it helped me evolve as a person in a way that I had better control of my emotions. I had better control of myself. I had better control of exactly how patient I am as a person overall.
So like when we do any business, there are days which are highs and lows, and initially there are moments when you even question, why did I start it in the first place? So was there any day when you were like feeling really challenged, and what kept you going?
I think that's every second day. That was yesterday only. So that keeps happening. That keeps happening. I think one of the instances maybe I can tell you here is that after we got the first cohort in HiveSchool, there were a lot of challenges we were facing, because once again, it was the first cohort, a lot of things were building, they were being set up. And that's when one of my students actually came and told me that, Nikhil, I don't know if HiveSchool is the right decision I took. Now, which is shocking for me. Now, even to say it on the camera, it's still shocking. Like, my team will kill me for this. Hey, this is not supposed to go out. But anyway, and that's exactly when I sat down with him and I asked him, Ki, kya galat hua hai? Tell me exactly what were you expecting? Where did we lack? And that's when he told me, gave an entire list of, this is what I was expecting. यहाँ पे मेरे को लगा है कि यहाँ पे मेरी expectations meet नहीं हुई है. I think that was one low point, which is that I was trying to build in education because I wanted to solve the problem. But the problem is still not being solved for that one student. Even if it's just one student, but the problem has not been solved for that one student. And that was the reason for why, once again, what I said earlier in the podcast, that you just handpick 40, 50, 100 people, then you work with them. That's when the intent for personalization came in. That every single student who's coming into HiveSchool, they will have a story. All of them will have a different story. How can we cater to every single story in a fashion that we are able to get them to the outcomes? And from there, this thought and this intent कि यार scale आराम से करेंगे, बहुत प्यार से business बनाएंगे, बहुत प्यार से education में कुछ बनाएंगे, आराम से बनाएंगे. एक साल में अगर हम 50 बच्चे ही cater कर सकते हैं तो 50 बच्चे ही उठाएंगे और उनके साथ बहुत अच्छे से काम करेंगे. So that was one of the lowest points, because that's where a reality hit me that, okay, I wanted to build something to create an impact, but there's this one student जिसकी life में हम impact नहीं ला पाए, and we took the fees from him.
Wow.
So that was once again like so that was one of the low moments. But once again, that's where introspection came in. But how can we now make it better for the newer cohorts to come in, and how can we make it better for that one student also who was dissatisfied? Now that one student is the biggest voucher of high school today. So I think we did that pretty well. But once again, like that's where the intent for personalizing the entire journey of every single student who's landing up on the campus came in. So yeah.
Like, one thing that I noticed with you is that when you mentioned about your challenge at high school or the days that you felt the lowest, I think you still have that spirit कि मैं college तो बनाऊंगा. And that is really remarkable, because I would say even the challenging days, somebody says, "Nee, yaar, I have invested, that's why I want to keep going." But your determination is something else. You are trying to move the education system and trying to incorporate something that is much more valuable. If legacy is the most important thing we ever sell but never get paid for, what is the legacy HiveSchool is quietly pitching to every student who walks through its doors?
I think the legacy that we are trying to create out of HiveSchool is that if there are 100 people graduating out of HiveSchool, those 100 students need to be poachable by the industry, which is that the student should not be looking out for jobs. The company should be looking out that, okay, these people have graduated, we cannot miss out on the talent that has come out of HiveSchool. So
Wow,
that is what we're chasing.
that is actually giving me goosebumps about the HiveSchool itself. It's actually really appreciable that you want them to be industry leaders and be actually revenue generator leaders for the country itself.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Correct. But thank you so much, Suhani. I think it was lovely being on the podcast, and thank you for being a very nice host. Looking forward to hosting you here at the campus once we have students also coming in here.
Well, aiming to that, and congratulations on everything that you have done, and I hope HiveSchool gets to the heights that you
Likewise.
have planned for.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you so
grateful.
much for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you. Thank you.